everybody. Hammer Away is back. This is Viking Stew. And you see, today, we're going to see how this works out. I know it's happening again, unfortunately.
Can you dig it?
Can you dig it?
Can you dig it?
This was to be the return of my buddy, Toby Jepson, for a live chat today. But I haven't heard from him yet today. These things happen. It's not a big deal. There's so much to talk about. So here we go. Now, what I can do, I can tell you all about that with Toby, and there's a lot of things that are happening with him. And here's my concern: is that I'm concerned for him today because the fact that he's been having some back issues. So I'm hoping that he is okay. That's my big message right now. The other big message is, thank God election day's over, right? Oh, let's get rid of this here. I didn't even have a beer with me today. I could use one, but instead I got my coffee. Still hot. That's the cool thing about this technology with Yetis and everything, or whatever kind of thermal cup works for you. Because I know these get expensive, but it's, but man, I can't believe how it keeps the coffee hot all day. Yeah. So, all right. Yeah, me too. We got Emma is here. Emma, thanks for being here. It is a big patriotic day for America. After the election was over and everything's been sorted, then thank God we're done with all that. There's a lot of things we can hope for the next time. Like maybe networks won't, like maybe they'll just give us the news and the truth. Can you imagine if we had that going on? Thank you, Emma. Yes, everyone zap that like button. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. I do appreciate that. Look at that. That's a great collage of emojis. I love it. I am doing well. Things are moving along. The war to end all wars is getting closer to its next step. So I'll show you guys. Maybe I'll see about pulling up some photos. In the meantime, I'm keeping in touch with Toby. I haven't heard from him. I did send him something the other day, which reminds me, I'm going to pull this up because it'll go along with what we're talking about. I watched something the other day, but so yeah, the renovation's coming along. My good buddy Tim was here when I got home, and he's taken off. I always hate having to come in and go, hey, I got to go do a show, but I'll talk to you soon. So, because they're kicking ass up there. It's looking really, really cool. And our cabinets should be coming in real soon. So that's really neat too. So just in time for my birthday. So that'll be awesome. So I hope everything's going well for you guys out there. It was a interesting day at work, and I'm going to take tomorrow off and get some other things done here. Things to do, graphics, things like that, things to get ready for the show. And so something. And again, I hope Toby's doing all right. You and me both, Emma. And I hope that he gets a hold of me here soon. But if he's resting and things are cool, it's okay. I can tell you guys about Toby right now, and he will be on the show. It's my apologies that he isn't here with me today. I was really looking forward to it because he's such a good buddy of mine, and I'm looking forward to talking with him. We haven't talked in person for a long time, and here's one of my. Let's see if I can bring this up for you guys. One of my favorite moments, that is so sweet, very sweet. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I get to turn the big 6-0, which now many years ago, right before COVID, is when I was over in Europe with Wayward Sons, going to the 4 different shows that I went to on that tour that they had with Steel Panther. And it was funny because so that was back when I was 56, and so then, or was I 55 heading for 56? Yeah, I was 55 heading for 56. Well, I put in a lot of time walking and carrying everything that I had on my back, and had my new boots on, and I was just trekking. After I'd get off the bus, I didn't have a car. I'd get off the train, getting into town. So it wasn't a bus; it was a train. Took the train into town from the Netherlands to Belgium. We went on down to Antwerp, and it was like, oh, now that's real sweet. That's very sweet. Now for years, I've people have been like, "What are you in your 40s or something?" I'm like, no, but thanks. That's awesome. So I always looked a lot younger. Well, there was this young lady there, um, who I met. I met her at the first show up in the Netherlands. They played in Utrecht, and that was a crazy happening. I think I told you about that, but I'll kind of save that for when I'm getting everything together here. Maybe I'll tell you in a little bit, um, for the first time, or maybe again. So anyway, I'm getting ready to go, to fly over to England, right? So we do this show in Belgium, and we get done there, and then I have to get to the airport. Well, here in the States, a lot of times you can hang out at the you can hang out there at the airport, right? If you need to travel. Oh, here. Okay, hold on. Let's see what he says here. Still available. Yeah. Yeah. Oh man. Yes, I'm here. There we go. All right. I sent him a fresh link. Oh yeah. Yep. Oh, okay. So hold on, guys. I'm gonna send him this link one more time, and I'm gonna send it link. So hang with me, guys. I appreciate you hanging. All right, I'm gonna send that, and then hopefully we'll see him here in just a couple of minutes. So anyway, as we're hanging out after the show, before she's agreed to take me to the airport, um, she said something about we said something about age, and I said, "Well, how young do you think I am?" And she goes, 60. I'm like, "Wow, ouch. Okay, okay, I'll give you that one because I'm a little disheveled from walking around Europe. Okay, so that's on me. You know, I'm like, ouch." For once, somebody's telling me I'm older than I am. I'm like, yeah, I wasn't ready for that. I was not ready. I said, uh, you're so lovely. I'm going to let that one go. So, so it's funny. Anyway, nonetheless. So yes, everything is coming along well. We're doing fine. And I'm looking forward to tomorrow getting some more things done, and this evening. So hopefully everything will be well, and hopefully we'll get Toby popping in here real soon. So if you haven't seen my interviews I've done with Toby before, you guys are just going to love Toby. He's a great guy. Now, he has said he had a little bit of a issue today, so hopefully he's okay. Here we go.
Hello, mate.
There's my brother. How are you?
Oh God, sorry about that.
Oh, hey, don't apologize, dude. You've got stuff going on, and I'm not. I was ready to do the show without you if I had to. So,
sorry, man. I was no, I just had a bit of a bad day today with the old. And it sounds like a right old moaning old man, don't I? But it's just been one of those days where it's just sort of like, I had started out great, and then unfortunately, sort of it's relapsed a little this afternoon. So I've been sort of like coping with it.
Okay.
But for all your poor listeners and viewers of this, it's not a geriatric complaining show. This, it's not geriatric rockers convention. It's
Well, I have to admit, I was just telling them about when I was over on the tour right before COVID with you guys, and went from the Netherlands, where what did we do after your show in the Netherlands? We went to a TGI Fridays.
Oh, that's right.
And watched the Super Bowl.
That's right. Yeah.
How much more American can I get if I'm flying all the way over, landing in Amsterdam?
Well, we were with what Steel Panther, weren't we? We
Yes.
were all completely and utterly obsessed with watching the Super Bowl. So it was hard to get away from it. But anyway, it was good fun. Good fun. Good fun.
Oh man. Yeah. So I was telling them also that we went after the show that you did in Antwerp. Then there was a young woman from the Netherlands who had been at the show prior, and then went down there too to see you guys. And so I hung out. She was talking with you guys after the show, and then she said she'd take me to the airport. And then we got to talking age outside, and I was 55 at the time. I said, "Well, how young do you think I am?" And she says, 60. I'm like, "Wow, okay."
Yeah. Thanks.
I was like, that was the first time in a long time I haven't, I've been called older than I am. I'm like, okay, I get it. I've been walking around with everything I own right now on my back. I get it. I look old. I get it. Because I was wiped out and right on the edge of kind of getting sick. I was.
Yeah.
It was wild. Emma Jade says rockers complaining would be a funny podcast.
Jerry,
that's it, Toby.
Complaining, yeah.
You and me every other month we'll get on and we'll just bitch about something.
Well, that would be easy. That would be easy. It seems to be easy. It seems to be easier to bitch and moan about stuff as you get older. Full stop. I don't know.
Absolutely right. I was so glad we were done with election day. We started with that we were done with that. Thank God.
Yeah, God. Should we shy away from that?
Oh, we're totally going to shy away from it because I'm glad it's over. So that's about all there is to say. So just too much nastiness.
Oh, God.
Besides, we're here to talk about you.
And you.
So,
and music. So let's concentrate on the music and the art.
Yeah, I'm so glad to have you here. I'm so glad you were able to make it. Again, I'm sorry that, you were kind of feeling it today, but I'm glad.
Have I mentioned you got a bad back? I don't think I mentioned that, have I?
No, so you haven't posted about it or anything? Or...
I haven't said a bloody word, have I? I don't know if I've managed to keep it to myself, to be honest.
Well, what I wanted to say is that there's been a lot happening with you. That whole COVID thing really. What's your first thought about your career? What would you say about your feelings about it since that happened to now?
Wow, that's a big question. And how long have you got?
We got a few minutes.
I think it was I think for a lot of us, I think globally, it was a pivotal moment. I think the idea of being trapped between four walls for getting on for 18 months or whatever it was never on anyone's radar, was it? So none of us really knew how to cope with it. And I think a lot of us found that very difficult. I certainly did. Some of it was very positive. I mean, I threw myself into work. I mean, weirdly for me, there was nothing. It was actually a kind of reinvention period for me, because I sort of looked at myself and thought, well, what else am I going to do? What can I do? Well, I got that box of wood over there with some strings on it. I'll play that a bit. Yep. I'll play it in front of me phone, and as we've discussed before, and all the rest of it. So that was a kind of that was the saving grace. It was a kind of that's what saved me really is the music and being able to examine the music again. But it was a double-edged sword, because as soon as I started re-examining my past, the music, that brought a lot of demons out the closet again, of course, and things I'd kind of put away, and I had to sort of face a lot of pretty dark and difficult stuff, and I think it was the start of a very long journey through mental health, really, having to cope with various things that happened to me when I was a kid, things that had happened to me professionally, and how those were now reflecting on me, and where those scars were, and also recognizing the fact that those scars and those difficulties had led to me being a writer and input an awful lot of information that caused me to write certain songs in certain ways. So it was a multifaceted process, and really the whole thing has led to where I am now. I mean, putting out this Lookout collection of this collection of songs, this 20 songs I'm putting out in 3 batches, which I'm putting under the moniker of Toby and the Whole Truth. And the album's called Look Out, so this is really the culmination of that journey. I feel like I've stepped off of one part of my life into an entirely new part of my life, which is driven by a need and a want to examine life in a different way, to be to find more joy and more peace, because so much of my life over the last 40 years, I'll be honest, since I kind of turned professional when I was 18, and I'm 57. I've just been 57, so I suppose it's 39 years. But a lot of that has been driven by a complex a series of issues that I don't think anyone should really have to go through. A lot of stuff I experienced at school, and so it's been a long time coming. But I feel I'm kind of closing the door on one chapter and opening a brighter, more fulfilling, hopefully, period of my life with this new chapter. Yeah.
Well, that's really interesting. Is that now? I'll ask you the question that anybody would ask you, I suppose. After all that, is there a situation where you're doing a book about that, or maybe something to help others, or in a situation like that, or is there?
Well, I don't know really. I mean, I think the music's enough for me. I mean, I think creating this album, this Look Out collection, there's 20 songs. All of these songs examine my journey through that process. I've had over 2 years of psychotherapy, which has really, really helped me. And in England, Great Britain, I mean, I know America I've always been a lot more plugged into psychologists and having psychiatrists help and all the rest of it. Over here, we really haven't. It's a very modern phenomena, really, that people in the UK didn't talk about mental health issues, specifically male mental health problems. It was always sort of frowned upon. The whole phrase was "pull yourself together." It's just life, of course it isn't. Everyone has different experiences, and depending what those experiences are is how we then cope with ourselves, isn't it? And how we reflect our experience as life and through life. And but I think this record examines all of that. It's my response to having to turn around and face myself and to acknowledge these things happened, and how I then deal with it. How I deal with it now, how I dealt with it then, how it's affected other people around me, how it's affected myself, how I come to terms with it, how I move forward. And so this is probably the most direct document I've created that discusses all of those aspects in every single kind of layered way. And I don't know whether I'm really interested in writing a book as such. I mean, I did the My Life in Words book, which came out a couple of years ago, which I think probably was as close as I'm ever going to get to some kind of biography, to be honest. Because, I don't know whether people really, the sadness of it is, for me, Stu, is there's a lot of people out there that still dismiss mental health struggles as if I'm bored of hearing it. That's just so woke, man. You're so woke. You know what? This is my personal life. This is the stuff that I've had to deal with. And so I'm not prepared to listen to that nonsense. And I think there are a lot of people out there that do suffer in silence, and what I genuinely hope is that this music can be some comfort, even if I never hear from anyone, even if it never gets mentioned. If someone gets something out of it and thinks, well, at least I'm not alone, that guy's experienced it as well, and he's saying the things that I wish I could say, that's enough for me. It's enough for me.
I think that's when you mentioned the woke thing, I mean, there's been a lot of that kind of stuff over here in the States where it's, I think what it comes down to is just, I think if people need help, they can get the help. You need to get the help. And I think there's just a lot of times that there's a push, and then that gets, but it's not the same. You know what I'm saying? I'm saying this all wrong. But,
no, I know what you're saying, but I think my response to that would be that it's a shame that these buzzwords come along, don't they, from time to time? I think at the end of the day, it's a negative reaction to something that's supposed to be positive. The idea of wokeness, if you like, let's just discuss it. Let's hit the nail on the head. for me just represents being careful about everybody,
Yes.
having some care and attention for everyone's situation,
Yes.
and not being not being prejudicial towards anybody, allowing
Right.
people to live their lives in the way they want to live them, because if everyone's got a different way of living, and none is less valid than something else, as long as you're not hurting somebody else, etc.
Right.
You know, that's it's all valid to me. And I think the trouble is that there are factions out there that hate change, don't want to face these things, want things to be somehow regarded in a different bracket. And I think that's a mistake and unfair. And I think at the end of the day, that's about as far as it goes.
Right.
There's nothing wrong and absolutely everything right with being careful and being considerate about other people's feelings and how people live their lives. And that's that.
Yeah. Especially if they're not moving forward. If it's something where they're just stuck. I mean, I deal with that with my, in certain things that I deal with, whether it be people I know or family or things like that. And you're like, okay, but this isn't helping you or anybody. But we all, at a certain point, we have to let people make their decisions and do what they're going to do ultimately.
Yeah. Of course,
but
but that's a journey. Everyone goes on their own journey. I mean, I hate this word journey. It always gets a bit it's a bit of a daft word, really. But that it is true. Everyone's process of living, experience, and leads into the next thing and all this. And it depends how you want it. It depends how you deal with it, and also crucially who you're involved with.
Yeah.
A big part of my conversation on this record. Once everyone gets the whole thing, and once all of the 20 songs are out there, is it's actually examining relationships, because what's really important in life is the relationships that you build.
Yes.
And what's really important in life is how you love people, and how you loved yourself, and how that can then reflect upon your own processes, and how you deal with other people. So,
right.
And I think that's the biggest examination that this record makes, is that recognition of other people and how they've helped you and how they care for you and how you can care for them and how you can advance that, because there is very little else really. And as I'm getting into my later years, I don't want to sound daft at all, but this stuff is immensely important to me. And all the stuff that you think is important when you're in your 20s all of a sudden feels very, very vacuous and empty and unimportant.
Yeah. And I have found over the years, and I've talked about it on the show before, and I may have even mentioned it to you, but it's also the people with whom we surround ourselves. And that means, and it doesn't mean you have to do this, but it's helpful if you can find it in that kind of situation, to find people who don't always, you get along with them, right? There's certain things you have in common. There's something you have in common that binds you. Yet at the same time, my best friend, we don't see eye to eye on a lot of things. We're not the same. First of all, she's a woman, so it's I already have to understand that I'm not going to understand everything that she thinks. And yet over the years, that has become a very a huge priceless relationship for me, because I can sit there and hear what she has to say and go, yeah, I get it. I don't understand it, but I get it. And I'm glad I've heard it, because now I can think a little bit more in that direction and have
totally. We never stop learning, I mean, no one's right. No one's right all the time. Often there's no right, there's no wrong, there's just different. I mean, I think a big part of life is learning to accept people and accept differences of opinions without falling out, etc. And I think it's something that you struggle with when you're younger, because we look at ourselves in terms of, God, I've got so many years left. When you're 20, you're not even thinking about when you're going to be in your 50s, are you? You're thinking, I'm a thrusting young man or thrusting young woman who's got these strong opinions, and I'm right, and that's that. But these are the mistakes we make, and of course we get the edges knocked off us as we go along. And but I like to believe that each stage of life is important, and you learn as you go, and that's about it. If you become belligerent, that's a different matter. Belligerence doesn't help anyone.
No. And and I think that's when we get closed off, that's never good. We may think it's good, and certain times I get it. Sometimes we need to back off because otherwise we're going to hurt somebody, with words. And, it reminds me of the line from from the song. How does it go? From Ghosts, where you're talking about, learned how to fight with words. Not with hurting someone, but with words from a book.
That's right. Yeah.
I think it's amazing. Well, I'm going to put this photo up. So here we go. Explain to me what's going on here.
Okay, so this is the first release of a 3 mini album set. The whole album's called Look Out. Like I've said earlier on, it is a collection of 20 songs, and this first mini album, which is the image you can see in front of you there, which is the guy looking through the binoculars and the lighthouse behind. It is the first 6 songs.
Okay.
There will be 2 more mini albums, both containing 7 songs.
Right.
And when people collect the whole thing and they put the albums side by side, it makes up a panoramic image that dictates the concept of the whole record. This record is an essay on being aware and being it's a warning in many ways, but it's a warning not just about things that are around you, it's a warning to yourself. Because I found the title because I think it's I suddenly sort of started looking at it, and I thought, well, look out can be a warning. It can be somebody shouting a warning.
Yeah.
A lookout can be a place, a vantage point where you're looking for things, or you can be the lookout, the one taking care of what's going on around you. So it has a number of connotations to the idea, and it sort of spoke to me as a really simple way of explaining my experiences of mental health struggles and how I've started to overcome them and how I've started to face myself. And so it represents that. It represents a kind of a warning about how you need to be aware of yourself, aware of the people around you, aware of your surroundings, and be prepared to act on them and take care of yourself. Yeah.
Outstanding. Now, I'm trying. So then, when the first one is out now, and then when will the next one come out?
Well, it's a little bit fluid at the moment because I'm in the middle of finishing the second one. I mean, what's been really exciting about this process is that it's been, I haven't had to complete anything because a record company's bashing on my door.
Right.
There's only me and Rob Town, my business partner, and a guy that's invested in the project, and a couple of other people that have any influence over it at all. But the book stops with me. I'm not in any rush. I'm really proud of this first record. I'm really proud of what we've managed to achieve with it and how it sounds. It's done exactly what I hoped it would do. And the second record's a work in progress. And so that will get done when it gets done. But loosely, I think the second record volume 2 will be available sometime in January. I think volume 3 will probably come out in April. So that's roughly the timeline.
Okay.
But you need, the first one's been on a pre-sale, and we didn't know how well that would do, but it did a lot better than we thought it would, and that's without anyone hearing any music at all. So we're about to put the first one back on sale in probably about a week's time. As soon as we've fulfilled the sales of the first pre-order, we're going to put it back on sale. So it's going to be available, all the time. It's not going to be restricted. Sort of thing.
Yeah. All right. Then because you also have the. So now, is this just the second release of Toby and the Whole Truth? Because you had started that with Ignorance is Bliss.
That's right. Yeah.
And that was that in 2020?
No, God, no. I reissued. Yeah,
you reissued it.
That's right. I mean, I recorded it in 1995.
I was going to say, it says 25th anniversary, right?
That's right. So I originally put it out in 1995. That was the first album I made after the Little Angels split up, and it was quite a challenging, quite a dark record. And so when I came around to making this record, there's something quite important about having a project name. I didn't want to go under just Toby Jepson. I thought I need to establish it as something, and it makes quite a difference actually having a moniker, like having Toby and the Whole Truth as opposed to Toby Jepson, because it's somehow that one little step to the side makes all the difference in terms of how I perceive myself, if you like. And it all matters. All of these things matter. All the details do matter. And so coming to make the record, it felt like a band project, but really it was a solo project. But so that sort of led into who I used on the record and how we approached it. And of course, I'm working with my co-writer Dave Kemp, who He's been heavily involved in the production. He hasn't written anything actually, but he's been very instrumental in helping figure out the direction of some of this music. As I don't know if you've heard much of it yet, but it's it's quite eclectic, the sound. There's lots of different influences, different styles, and so I needed Dave's fantastic musical ear on that.
How's Dave doing, by the way?
He's going great. I mean, he's had some struggles. I mean, he had a problem with his liver. He was in hospital for quite a while, but he's overcome that. He's very, 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 very. He's in rude health. Actually, I've never seen him quite so healthy. So that's great. And I was talking to him last night actually about things, and he's coming down to carry on working on the album with me in a couple of weeks' time. So that's great. And I mean, he's a diamond geezer. I mean, he really is the soul of the earth, that bloke. Really is.
Yeah. Would I be okay in saying that he is quite the sweet soul, I think, isn't he? Right?
Oh, mate, he is. There simply isn't a nicer person on the planet. He is. He has, and I mean that. I mean, nice is such an awful word, isn't it? But he is a genuinely big-hearted, kind person that wouldn't hurt a fly, but is possessed of a talent that is monumental, and he is so modest with it. But that's his power, because it just drips out of him. There's no grandstanding, there's no arrogance. It's literally he just plays, and for whatever reason, me and him really work well together. We really interact really, really well, and there's never been a time where we haven't been able to turn something out. I mean, his influence on the making of this record has been enormous. I mean, he's playing a lot of piano on it. He's a fantastic piano player as well as a great saxophone player. So he's had a real, and he's got such a deft touch. It's gentle. It's a very emotional playing style. He connects deeply with the music, and he really helps bring the best out in me. So I couldn't want for a better partner, actually. Yeah. It's quite something.
Yeah. He did the keyboards and stuff on the first couple of Wayward Sons, correct?
All of the albums, yeah.
And all of the albums.
Yeah, all of them, yeah.
You can see how beautiful that playing is when you guys recorded Fade Away.
Oh, God, yeah. He's
that song still just it's awesome. And Emma Jade says the artwork looks very nice for this Lookout album.
Oh, thank you, Emma. That's great.
The Lookout doesn't notice the tentacle around his leg.
Exactly. Take care. Beware.
Beware. Just as they used to say, right? During Jaws, just when you thought it was safe.
Exactly.
Also, real quick here, too, I wanted to bring this up. Did you happen to notice this? I thought I put this picture in here and it didn't show it. I was watching this show the other day, and it's a 3-piece thing called I Want to Rock. It's the 80s metal dream. The stories, the secrets, the hair. And I was watching that the other day, and I'll be damned, as they were going into the beginning of the 3rd episode, they were like, and it all came down. And there were these bands and look at this picture.
Wow.
Did you know they were going to do that?
No, it's the first I've ever heard of it.
Yeah, your photo's there.
Mad man. Weren't we pretty, all of us? Look at that.
Weren't you, though?
No, I mean, that's Milton Keynes Bowl. I know exactly where that was taken. We were about to go on stage. We were touring with ZZ Top and Bryan Adams.
I see Adams there. Okay.
Yeah, we were about to go on stage of one. There was only one night at Milton Keynes Bowl in the UK. Yeah, that was literally seconds before we went on.
Wow. Man, oh man. You went out in shorts, eh?
I went out in shorts, mate. Probably one of the biggest, worst decisions I ever made in my entire life, to be honest.
Why do you say that?
because it's like it's one of those things. It's one of those like cringy things. You look back, you go, "Who? Why didn't anyone tell me? Why didn't someone say put some jeans on, you idiot?" You know. But it was a really roastingly hot day, and I just decided I was going to go out and shoot. I should never have done it, man. It was ridiculous. But anyway, there we go. I did.
Well, yeah. I really couldn't believe it's on there for like, I don't know, 2 seconds.
Yeah.
3 seconds at the most. Because I was like, whoa, wait a minute. And I'm like, certainly maybe that's them. I don't know. It was so weird when I saw it.
Man, that's crazy.
Because I just watched it the other day. So then, where are we with Wayward Sons these days?
Well, we sort of. I mean, this. Have I mentioned I got a back problem? Anyway,
No. Wait a minute. When did this come up?
I haven't said a word, Stu, and I don't know how people have found out. It's crazy. It's crazy. That's social media for you. But no, because I have unfortunately been laid low with this back problem. We've just moved a load of dates. We were supposed to be playing last weekend and the weekend before, actually,
right
over here in the UK. But we've had to move the dates, reschedule them to April. We've had to pull out of a couple of festivals. Sadly, sort of winter festivals we have over here. Mm-hmm. Because I just can't stand up. I mean, I can't, joking aside, I can't stand up for longer than half an hour. I certainly can't wear a guitar until I can get sorted out and figure out what's going on. It's a non-starter. So we decided to move the dates. We're thinking of putting out a live album. We've gathered together a lot of live material from Download, from Stone Dead Festival, from various sort of gigs that we've done over the years. And we're thinking of putting out a live album in the interim period. And then we'll just sort of see what will happen. In all honesty, Stu, I don't know. I mean, we've made 3 great records.
You did.
That's what I've made with Little Angels. I've been in Wayward Sons longer than I was in Little Angels.
Right.
Which is mad.
Very strange.
I love the guys. They're brilliant people. We have great fun. But there's a lot of life out there to live, and it doesn't necessarily have to be the same all the time. And that's why I put this solo record together, because I'm the sort of person that needs to have a lot of things going on. I've gotten heavily involved in screenwriting at the moment. I mean, the film stuff is taking off at the moment. Looks like my first official screenwriting commission is going to get made into a movie next year. Looks like, that's going to get made in Australia this time next year, I believe. So I'm just going into the final drafts of that, or the final draft of that. So, there's a lot of stuff going on in my life. There's a lot of moving parts. And so... But we're all cool. We're cool. We talk a lot about it. We might make another record, but you know what, Stu? I'd only make another Wayward Sons record if the songs were so killer, I simply couldn't resist recording them. So that's the only way I would do it. I don't want to be put under any pressure. I want to write. If I write some stuff one day and I wake up one morning and I write a killer rock song and think, God, that sounds like Wayward Sons and it's really great, then there's a good chance we'll record it.
Yeah.
But let's just wait and see.
And I mean, who knows? You might just get that drunk writer thing going on again, where you just have all this stuff you're just pouring out. Who knows? You never know.
Well, that's certainly what happened on the Lookout record. I mean, I spent 3 weeks just doing nothing but writing songs, and it was ridiculous. It's the most profuse I've ever had. The most sort of like explosion of ideas. I mean, it happens to me once in a while. It happened to me on the Truth Ain't What It Used to Be album, and it certainly happened to me on this record. But you can't count on that. You have to let it happen. So
and I think I want to. Can we hone in on that for just a second? Because I know that throughout my life, when I have those moments when something looks too big, right? Because I didn't know it for years. I didn't know I dealt with ADD. I just know that every time, dang it, who's the musician that was talking about it recently? And they said, when I was in school, all I know is every time the teacher would talk to my parents, it would end with, well, if he would only apply himself. Damn it. I just watched this not long ago. And I was like, no way. Because that's what I always say about me. And this is one of my favorite musicians. I can't remember what it was. But what is that like for you when do you ever look at those things where you're like, whoop, new Wayward Sons album? Okay, holy shit. Okay, this is huge. And then when those things start falling into place and when the songs start coming, what's a key feeling that you have when that starts happening? Are you just taken in by, I got work, I got it coming, it's coming, go, go, go? Or do you go, wow, do you look
Yeah,
at,
I know what you're saying. Very hard to answer, but I think the short answer is I have to be inspired, and
Mhm,
that in itself is an unknown quantity. It's a kind of gossamer thin
mhm,
phantom something or other that you don't know where it's going to arrive from. And
yeah,
certainly, I had for the very first. I mean, weirdly, after the Ghost album, which came very naturally, I wrote that in a very short space of time.
mhm,
And the guys were quite heavily involved in that. That was inspiring because they were new people to work with, and so that in self, that sort of self-propelled the whole thing forward. And so I was writing a lot of tunes, but at the end of that first album, because it had been sort of strangely, I didn't anticipate it being successful, that record, but it was very successful, certainly in Europe. So it was a
yeah.
kind of question of, well, what do I do now? I was not anticipating that being a success. So it was a kind of one of those things where, well, what do I do? And I actually had, for the very first time in my entire life, I had writer's block, what I would determine as proper writer's block. I could not think what to do. It was a complete mystery to me. I thought, I just don't know how I don't know if I can write anything better than anything on this record. And what is better anyway? I was thinking all wrong about it. And then I remember I sat down in frustration because I was sitting down with my guitar every day for about 2 or 3, maybe
Yeah.
longer, 3-4 months, maybe longer, just sitting down with my guitar every day. Because by this point, I'm under pressure because it's like the record company are gone, this record's been really successful. We're really happy with this. We need another one. So I'm thinking, oh my God, I'm under that pressure. The band are going, well, what we doing? And of course, I'm the writer. It's my project.
Right.
So difficult. So I'm sat there with my guitar every day, messing about with stuff, trying to make something happen. And of course, the more you try, the worse it gets.
Yeah.
So I kept putting the guitar down. And then one day, out of pure frustration, I decided to go through some exercises. Some basic, because I'm a rubbish guitar player. I am really, really average. But what I am good at is chord progressions, and I've always been good at it. It's
I
something
got
that I've honed, and I like unusual chord progressions. So I thought, as an exercise, what I'd do is I'd find my way from the top of the neck, from the 12th fret down to the first fret, doing semitone chord changes, minor and major, and see where it goes. And
Wow.
within about 10 minutes, I'd come up with this chord progression, which kind of came out of that exercise. And I wrote a song in about 10, 15 minutes later, I'd written this song, and that was it. The tap was open,
Wow.
and it just poured out of me. I couldn't even, it was ridiculous. It wouldn't stop. I was up all hours. And I don't know where that came from. I have no idea. It was driven by, I know the concept was driven by frustrations. And we won't go into the details because we've already talked about this a lot, but
Right.
it was driven by the frustrations, the political frustrations around the globe at the time. And because I'm I'm a political person. I've taken care of that, and over the years, I think it's important, as we've discussed before. But that was what drove that. I was inspired to write those songs based on the need to talk about those things. I mean, getting into the whole concept of coming up with songs for another Wayward Sons record. Like I say, it would just need to be the same. I would need to find a place in my head and in my soul, in my heart, that would somehow deliver an honesty, an authentic message, something that connected deeply within me, that then hopefully would connect with other people. Because the truth of it is, songwriting is an incredibly selfish thing, and so it should be. Any art form should be front and center, primarily incredibly selfish for the creator. Because if it isn't, if you're chasing the audience, if you're trying to second guess what they want or what you think the market requires, you're on a road to nowhere. It will never work. Or if it does work, it'll be vacuous and empty and thin and have nothing to say.
Yes.
So you've got to have a point.
Yeah. Look at Janie Lane. I mean, they're like, we need a hit. And he wrote Cherry Pie and had regrets about it the rest of his life.
Exactly, and this has happened to many artists. You can't force it. You really can't. And so, I think with Wayward Sons, it would need to be an epiphanal moment where I just started wake up and go, "Oh my God, I've got to do this," you know, because that's what's happened on this album. I had to do this record. There was a demand with an internal demand, an absolute focus, a total need, and it exhausted me. I mean, it really did. 3 weeks of solid writing, up till all hours, doing demos, acoustic demos, which I never do normally. Writing 15, 16 verses for a song that only had 3. You know, it's exhausting. It is. It rips you out. It rips you apart, turns you inside out. If you're doing it right, it turns you inside out. You're exhausted by the end of it, you know.
So, before I move on to the next question about it, who's distributing this new piece? Is it all
we're doing it ourselves? No, we are
independent.
We're doing it independently. We're doing it entirely. Cool. It's Jepson's Music, which is my music company, if you like. We've formed a company, and it's Lookout Music Limited. We're putting it out what we call D2C, direct to customer. It's all ordered through our website, through tobyjepsonofficial.com. All of my music stuff can be bought through there, directly through my shop. And we're handling everything, the fulfillment ourselves, international and national, and our terrestrial handling of fulfillment. We're all doing ourselves, but we've got a lot of partners. You know, we've got some investors. We've got all the digital arm of things is being dealt with by an aggregator. You know, we've got people looking after our YouTube and our Spotify aspect of things, which hasn't started yet, because I'm holding back the digital aspect of things a little bit, because I want people to buy the physical, and I feel that's important. And I know that Spotify is very important, and I know that all the platforms are very important. But do you know what? I don't want them to dictate the terms. I'll dictate the terms. You know, so I want the physical thing to be available first. Then we'll get onto the digital. We've got a great plugger over here that's plugging internationally as well. We get some great reactions from radio. I mean, I got my first week's worth of plays back, international plays, and bizarrely. Well, not bizarrely, it's fantastic. A lot of radio stations in the US are playing it. Specifically, there's one station in Chicago called Hot Wax Radio, I think it is, who are constantly playing the first single, "Alone with You." They've got it on rotation, so that's completely amazing. I don't quite know what's
fantastic.
So there's a lot going on. There's a lot of California. There's 2 or 3 stations in California playing it a lot. I've seen some places in Arizona. There's some Midwest stuff. There's a station in Texas playing it. So it seems to be connecting in a way that hasn't happened before, or hasn't happened for a long time. So I'm quietly confident, Stu. Quietly confident.
I'll have to make sure that I check in with Katie about that too.
No, absolutely. I mean, I will. If you don't have the music, I will absolutely send it to you as soon as this conversation's finished. In fact, I'll send it to you whilst we're on the line. How's that?
What?
Would you like to hear it?
You're magic, man.
I am. Well, it's just this. Hey, it's the modern world, Stuart. You need to get your head around it, kid.
Yeah. Now, did it look like in the one photo? Did it look like there's going to be like a?
Did I just disappear then?
No, not well.
Hang on. I'm just going to try and open a new tab, see if I can send you the music in real time. Now, this is the first time it's ever happened in the entire world.
Whoa! Exclusive.
This is an exclusive. Should we try it?
Try it.
So yeah, I think I've got your email.
I think you do.
Bear with me then. It looks like I disappear when I press this button, but I don't think I am. So keep talking.
Okay. All right. So now, did it look like in the photo that I put up on the screen earlier, that is there going to be like a box into which they all 3 go?
Exactly that. Yes, there is a collection box. So within that box, there'll be 3 CDs and 3 booklets with all the lyrics for each of those mini albums, and then there'll also be a separate CD of all the demos. I'm giving all the demos away, so you're going to get 20 demos as well, the acoustic demos, plus an extra booklet of photographs and all the technical information that will be given at the very end. So it all goes into the box. Yeah.
Okay. So if you guys want to go to, I'll put this link in here. I'll just put it right here in the chat, and you guys can check that out. If you go to shop.tobyjepsonofficial.com, and then you can do that. That'll bring it right up. And oh, look at that. It's talking about kicking up dust. What a great man, dude. I saw that you guys had the vinyl of Don't Pray For Me, and I'd love to get a copy of that.
Well, I mean, mate, it's so rare, that is. it's like trying to find, rocking all shit, to be honest. But
Yeah.
I mean, it is out there. It is out. I'm just trying to. Do you know what? Tell you. Can you tell me your email address in real time now, so I don't have to
Yeah.
try and find it?
Yeah, it's Hammer Away 56.
Hammer Away 56.
At Gmail.
Right. Okay. At gmail.com.
Yeah.
Okay, and I give you hang on, I think that's right. Oh no, no, it isn't. And I give you permission to use to play any of these.
Okay, great.
Ahead of release. Hang on. Copy that. Oh, I just did the wrong thing there, didn't I? Like an idiot.
You just do that for my benefit, so when I screw up, I don't feel so bad.
That's right, pal. That's right.
That's what I tell my bandmates. Have you ever told your bandmates that? They're like, "Oh shit, sorry, I screwed that up." You're like, "No, it's cool. I'm glad you're willing to screw something up, so I don't look so bad all the time." Not that you screw up all the time, but just saying. Saying. We frontmen have our ways of having our moments.
That's it. Right. I'm transferring it to you now. You let me know when it comes in.
Fantastic.
You've got it all. So I'm just going to wait here until I know it's transferred. Isn't this exciting? This is a world exclusive.
I know, dude. I'm like, this is far out.
Hey, we can do anything. We can do anything.
We can.
Nothing wrong with that. So we're nearly there. We're nearly there. Coming in. I've only got about 20% to go. Here we go. Nearly done. And that's it. That should be with you. It's just finalizing. It should be with you now. So that's a WeTransfer file, and that's all the songs. There you go. Done. It's
Look
with
at
you.
That. Let's see.
That come through?
Yep. That's a new. What is this? What is this thing? This WeTransfer. What is that?
It's just a digital bulk transferring company.
Okay.
And it just allows you to send large files without any difficulty at all. So that what you've got there is you've got the 6 songs in their full mastered WAV situation.
Fantastic.
So they're not MP3s; they are full WAVs, and so you've got the full bandwidth there. Yeah,
cool. Yeah, because I'm gonna have to order this too. I'd like to. I got to have the physicals. I'm all about the physical things too.
Oh, I know. But I mean, for now, at least you can listen.
Absolutely. I appreciate that.
My present to you, Stu. It's my present to you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so you got the Lookout new album. You can do that. The collection series, limited edition, 20, as you said, 20 brand new songs, over 43 tracks, including exclusive first listen access to the album tracks, demos, audio narratives, and other bonus content by Toby. So then you also have the Little Angels release that you did, the live rarities.
Yeah.
Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, it was what it is. It's not actually the Little Angels. It's me.
Right.
It's me playing acoustic versions of my favorite Little Angels songs.
Yes.
Live in the studio. So I've done them essentially just me and a guitar. But also, years and years ago, I rediscovered some live recordings of my solo band, my first solo band, back in 2002. We went out and did a load of shows, and part of those shows, I played a number of Little Angels songs, just because I wanted to. I wanted to kind of exercise that ghost and all the rest of it. So exercise that ghost. So we, I didn't want to take a ghost out for some exercise. I excised the ghost. Sorry, got me. Well, maybe I did. Maybe I did want to take a ghost.
I think they'd probably fall in love with you and hang out forever, and then you'd be like, "Oh, damn it!"
You can always hope. You can always hope.
Just when I need another friend.
Exactly. One that no one else can see. Yeah.
One of my favorite things, Robot Chicken, when they did all the Star Wars stuff, right? Oh. And remember how beloved Jar Jar Binks is to everybody.
All right.
And they have that episode where it's when they do that Star Wars thing and he dies and he's like, Annie, look, we can be together all the time. And he's like, no.
Exactly. Yeah, well, it wasn't quite like that. But yeah, so we recorded these. So there's about 6 or 7, maybe not as many as that. Maybe I think there might be 5 actually. 5
Okay.
electric band versions of Little Angels songs played by my first solo band. But they were really good, and I'd forgotten how good they were. So me and Rob just thought, well, it's never been out. We've never released it. So why don't we put that together with the acoustic versions of the Little Angels songs, and just to show how those songs have evolved over the years, because I play them completely differently now. I don't play "Don't Pray for Me" or "Kicking Up Dust" in the same way as I did when I was 22 years old when I wrote it. It's an entirely different. I interpret it differently. The words come out differently. It's quite an interesting thing. So we felt it was kind of relevant enough for a real completist to have, and it's gone down great. We've sold a lot, and more than anything else, not so much even the selling of it. It's more to do with how people have reacted to it. It's been really, really positive. Yeah.
And I have to say that I think that's that was a big, awesome thing. The efforts that you put forth, in keeping with, I'm going to say, the fans who are, I mean, when I was over there hanging out in England, that was fantastic. Hanging out with your fans there and just, having new friends and family. It's like a family. I'd been doing the whole conversation over Facebook with these folks. And then when I got there, it was just like, you're a part of the fold. And
oh yeah.
And I think all of the efforts that you did in the kitchen with the busking and all those things to keep rolling, and then doing the other recordings of classic favorites of yours, and having those bits, really, I think just was a great bridge to keep people in touch. And I think that was great.
Without a doubt. And I think there's, for me, there has to be a big recognition about how that relationship works. Without the fans, there are no bands. I mean, I know it's a tried and tested and bit of a cliche these days. People say this all the time, but it's totally true. Without people supporting the bands, there is no way those bands are ever going to carry on. And I think it does come down to the effort you put in to recognize that. I mean, absolutely. Little Angels were very good at it. Because we were fans first and foremost. We were all fans of Van Halen and Bon Jovi and The Who and all our favorite bands, and our White Snake, and and we used to go to the gigs, and so we knew what that felt like to queue up in the rain to buy the ticket or wait for the new album to come out. It's not lost on us, and I think we recognise that wholeheartedly, and we always looked after our fans from day one, even when we were an absolute nothing band. If anyone stayed behind to say hello, we would spend time with them and have a drink with them and talk to them, and it wasn't a calculated plan. It was because we wanted to do it, and so there are still people that I remember coming to our first ever gigs in the UK that come to my solo shows. I mean, I went out and did a big acoustic tour this year through the spring, and there are people that are coming. There are fans and people and faces in the audience that I recognise from the first time I ever did gigs in the UK.
Wow,
that have followed me for 40 years. So that, man, I mean, that's not only is that a huge financial commitment for people, the amount of stuff that they bought of mine, but it's more importantly, it's the emotional connection and what the music has helped them get through and how they value that. I mean, it's extraordinary to me. The very fact anybody puts their hand in the pocket to buy my music or comes to a gig or feels compelled enough to send me a message to say, I really like the song or whatever it is, that is a big, big thing, because I've felt that. I've had that feeling too, so it's really important that to me that the fans and the people who like the music they understand that that's the way I feel about it.
Yeah. There's a lot to be said for meeting up with your favorite musicians. There's something to be said for maybe people who take it too far, but there's somewhere in that happy medium, which I try to be in a happy medium where you're just like, this is great, but when you and I made a connection after so many years of me listening to the Little Angels stuff, and then here it was, I don't know, however long it was, over a decade later. And then I'm like, whoa, wait a minute, hold on. You're rolling with this other band and this has been going on. And so for you to have that personal edge to it, to where you got back to me, you're like, well, hey, I'm glad you liked it. And yeah, everything is good, and I'd love to talk to you about this new stuff. When you have that opportunity, it really is fantastic. I finally met up with Vinny. Well, I met Vinny more at NAMM years ago, but here he was just performing in town, and I'd gotten his Mind's Eye album back when it came out, and it was just I'm like, you know what? I know I got one picture with you, but could we just get one more picture holding this record, because this really impacted me.
Yeah.
You know.
Listen, and I think, you know, most musicians worth their salt that have been lucky enough to achieve something, you know, a little bit more than sort of say more than most. You're just, you know, we're all astounded that we've managed to achieve it. You know, it's incredible, you know, because it's like, how the hell have we managed to do that? You know, anyone who thinks otherwise is, you know, that ain't going to work. You know, you've got to. There's a healthy level of. I certainly think that there's a healthy level of once the achievement happens, of this sort of amazement. You know, because it is incredibly difficult, and nothing's for granted. We never took anything for granted, and no one feels like we deserve anything. Those words like deserve and, you know, and you know, we expect things and all the rest of it.
You're entitled to all this.
Yeah, the entitlement of it all. None of us ever felt entitled about it. We felt astounded that people turned up to our gigs. We knew we had some energy. We knew that there was something going on. There was a sort of like a fission always happening on stage with us. We knew that was there. But where it was going to take us, we didn't have a clue. And there wasn't a plan. I mean, there was no plan with Little Angels at all. All we wanted to do was play music and do some gigs and follow the trail. We were determined, absolutely determined, but we didn't know where it was going to go. And you know what? I think if it hadn't happened, we would have been just as happy, but in a different way. But it did happen for us. And you know, so we were all pinching ourselves. You know, imagine, you know, we ended up touring with our favorite band, Van Halen. You know, we were the only one of only two bands in Europe ever to play with Van Halen in Europe. You know,
wow,
British band. So, you know, to end up sat backstage with Eddie talking about their career and him celebrating us and being, you know, commenting positively about us and about our performances and how happy he was to have us on the tour. You know, can you imagine what that feels like for a bunch of five kids from North Yorkshire? It was absolutely extraordinary, you know. So, and we always were so thankful for that. And so that extends into every aspect of what you do. Then you know, I just feel very, very lucky, and I think that a lot of it is. I'm not sure I believe in luck, actually, but what I do believe in
I don't.
is, I don't think I do believe.
Because you guys worked your ass off.
I think that's the truth. I think
have that opportunity.
Exactly, you've got to put the effort in. I think luck's an easy way. It's actually a dismissive way of saying, well, you got that through through not putting the effort in or something. It's like a dismissive term to me, you know, and I think that's wrong, because you make your own luck by being good at something. You know, that's
and not acting a twit.
Totally right, and I think that's kind of where I prefer to think about all of this stuff, really. And so, as a result of that, I'm very, very thankful for anyone that stayed on board. You know,
yeah. And then for everybody out there too, you've got plenty of solo stuff out there. You have your Viewfinder album, and you've got Sticks and Stones out there as well. And Sticks and Stones is more like tell me a little bit about that. It's a spoken words, the Angel Years.
Yeah, I mean, it came off the back of doing the book. I mean, I made a career. I wrote a book because you know, people kept saying to me, "Oh, you know, just like you mentioned earlier on, you know, you ought to do a biography. You ought to, and I'm like, I don't know about that. I'm not successful enough for a biography to sort of, you know, at that level to sort of make an impact. It seemed crazy to me. But what I did feel was important was I could sort of talk about my life through the words of the songs. You know, the songs that I created and what they meant, because songs mark time. You know, you write a song in a certain point in your life and it means something because of what you were going through at the time, etc., etc. So I wrote the book Sticks and Stones, My Life in Words, and it was really, you know, it was received really, really well. Cool. And so the Sticks and Stones audio book really was a kind of extension of that. It was a kind of potted history, a talking book through the early years of how the band came into being, how I started writing songs, what it was all about being in a band, what happened at the end of the band's career, where I went from there, how I sort of found my way out of that, and kind of the discussion thereof of the human experience through that, So I think it's quite it's an acquired taste. I mean, you're only going to want to listen to it if you're a hardcore fan, but I do think there's a sort of sense of it was quite fulfilling doing it. It was I enjoyed doing it, So
yeah, and I think from what you've said about hey, do you want to write a book? Well, I kind of say it through the music, and I think this kind of a book is a way to start helping to explain that, where because that's a lot. I mean, you think about it that way, and you think about how many songs you've written and how many great songs you've written too. I mean, I will throw down on that. I could say that because you're on my show, but I'm saying it because it's true.
Thank you.
Just especially these, the Wayward Sons albums are some of the newest things that I just fell in love with every one of them, and for different reasons in different ways. And knowing that, well, this is kind of how I pour it out. You're like, why would I want to write a book about all that stuff when I can just pour it out and make great records, which is my first passion is doing the music and how.
Yeah, well, it's the primary impulse, like that's what it's always been. And I mean, it is an interesting journey. And one of the things I've kind of relinquished, really, I think, in recent years, because of going through the therapy that I have and all the rest of it, is learning to accept that it might not be forever, because nothing's forever. And, learning to anticipate that a little bit and expressly find other ways of expressing myself in different ways. So that's why I've got into the screenwriting, for instance. It's a really important thing for me. It's a passion of mine. I feel as impassioned about writing for film as I did when I first started writing songs, So it's a great bedfellow for the songwriting, because if I'm getting bored of writing the songs or I'm getting stuck with writing the songs, I can easily turn to carrying on working on one of the screenplays I'm working on, and it's very I found it incredibly cathartic, very very relaxing, and very very rewarding. So and that's to me is very 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 important that I have a couple of things. It's no longer just one hard focus, and it's really helping both aspects. It really is. Yeah.
You know what? I have a gentleman that's in Nottingham that I would love to get together with you, even just to say hello or whatever. But he's into doing the writing and things like that, and he was telling me about an idea that he had the other day. The band is called Blitz, and and he's based there in Nottingham, and it's Stuart Corden is his name. So we'll have to keep in touch about that.
Of course.
Because he's a really good guy. They have a video that's actually coming out tomorrow. They covered White Wedding by Billy Idol.
All right. Great song.
So, and they did a video for that. So yeah, real nice guy, real good guy. And but so how many do you have? Multiple? I'll just ask you this real quick about the screenplays. Do you have multiple ideas going now, or are you honed in on one thing?
There's three principal things that are in play at the moment. There's a film I got commissioned to write for an Australian company, which I've been working on for about just over a year now, and we're at the 5th draft stage. Looks like that's going to get made this time next year, like I said. There's 2 American companies, actually, funny enough, that are funding it, I believe, or in the running for funding it. So they're just deciding how that's going to work. I mean, that's not part of there's no aspect of that I'm involved with at all. I'm literally just the writer. But the great thing about it is that project is called The Senator's Daughter. That will, if that film does get made, then I am a professional screenwriter, because it's astounding how many writers are out there that write screenplays that never get a film made. They spend more of their time doing things called polishes, polishing a script, or doing their version of a script, or rewriting someone else's idea. But more often than not, the films, they don't ever get a film made. So it's I feel very lucky. I've been working with this company called Steve Jaggy. It's called the Jaggy Entertainment, and they're in Brisbane. And they make a lot of films for Netflix and Amazon and Disney and independent movies. So I feel very lucky that I found myself in that position. But that's a very active project that's happening right now. That's where I've got a script supervisor that's looking after that. So we're dealing with that on a kind of weekly basis at the moment, and we've been through amendments and blah blah blah. But my company, Big Bad Films, which is a small independent business, we're developing 2 scripts. One's called Belly of the Beast, which is about the music industry. It's a serial killer film. It's a revenge thriller now, actually, set in the music business. And that's something we're trying to get made. And we're just, it's a very long, protracted process. But I've also got another American company in Hollywood that are interested in, through a friend who's really interesting in another screenplay I've written called Small Talk, which is about my experiences at school and how I became a musician. And that's quite active. So there's 3 solid projects. I've also got 2 or 3 other screenplays that I'm writing in, whenever I feel like I want to write them.
Yeah.
Which are spec scripts. And it's just a sort of ongoing thing, really. And I'm just sort of, the company down in Australia have asked me about doing sequels already. So there's possibly 2 other films to write off the back of The Senator's Daughter, which will be using the same characters and, etc. So I'm starting to sort of like circle that at the moment and try and figure out where that story is going to go. And yeah, it's good. It's good fun. And it's the cheapest aspect of making films. It's the most important aspect because it's the story and it's the blueprint. But it's the cheapest aspect because it's literally ink on a page. That's it. Yeah.
So. Now, do you ever find it tough to, or is there a situation where you might be able to write some songs for these where you're like, hey, I'm kind of a package deal. I can write this stuff, and I think this might use a song, not so much a score. But you might want a song right in this spot. I got something for you.
Yeah, there is that. I started out getting involved in filmmaking at this point in my life as a composer, because I got a friend of mine who is a very successful independent filmmaker in Britain, who I'm now involved with in this little company. He bizarrely, he's called Lionel Hicks. He was originally in a band from Scarborough called Gypsy, and we worked together. It was the first professional band I was ever in, if you like. Then he went off into the film business. I went off into Little Angels, and we didn't see each other for about 20 years. And I bumped into him on a train when I was producing a Saxon record. I don't know if I've told you this story, but essentially I was in couldn't make it up. I was in a snowstorm on a train trying to get back to York, trying to get home. Yeah. And I bumped into Lionel in this absolutely crammed train. You couldn't have got more people on this train. And it was like, we hadn't seen each other for 20 years. And so we ended up sitting in a blizzard in York Station in North Yorkshire. And I said, well, what have you been doing with yourself? And he goes, well, I make films now, And I went, oh, yeah, not expecting him to say. I said, well, what have you made? And he reeled off all these movies, most of which I'd seen, most of which I absolutely loved, So it was like, oh, my God, this is great. And he said to me, look, if you ever fancy, having a natter about music, then let's do that. So that's what happened. I ended up writing the score for a film that when the film got made, but they ran out of money and so couldn't afford to pay me, so they didn't use the music. So that was my first introduction. But then me and Dave wrote a load of songs for a kids adventure film that was going to get made in Germany by a big company called Pantaleon, who are involved with Warner's. And that we literally, how about this for bad timing? We signed on the dotted line to make the film the day before the first lockdown in COVID. And we'd done a load of demo. Honestly, Stu, you wouldn't believe
after I saw you,
mate. We must have spent 6 to 8 months composing 12 songs for this film. We were working with a script writer. He was a really successful American writer. He was going to direct it. It was all going on, Pantaleon. Because I don't know if you remember, when we were in Munich, I went to a meeting with Pantaleon in Munich to discuss the film whilst we were there doing that show. And we got back to the UK and they were like, yes, we want to go ahead with this. We're going to give you the next bit of money for you to carry on developing these songs. And literally the day after, the first lockdown happened, and they went bust as a result. So the film went to the wall. The film went to the wall, and bizarrely, the actual intellectual property is still owned by, I think, the original writer and Lionel. And Pantaleon have been rescued by the German government, so they are back online. So there is a slim chance we might do the film again, but it's all a little bit kind of tentative, you know. So yeah, but so I have done that, and Belly of the Beast, the music business based film I've written, that is about a rock band whose singer is on a revenge course to take revenge on people that have wronged him. And all of those songs there will be about 8 songs in that film if it goes, and all of those songs I am writing.
Can you get the rights for Death on Two Legs?
Well, wouldn't that be good?
That'd be great for the end, or somebody's listening to it in the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. No. Well, I mean, it's, you know, the thing about the film industry I'm finding out is that I thought the music business was complicated, but the movie industry, my goodness me, it is convoluted beyond belief.
A lot of hands.
A lot of hands. And do you know what? More than anything else, it moves at a snail's pace, because getting people to commit to things, you know, like I say, the easiest bit's writing the thing. I mean, you know, I wrote. I mean, I've been writing Belly of the Beast with we've got a director attached. We've got some really great producers attached. The bit we're having a struggle with at the moment is getting any actors to commit to it, and that's mainly to do with the actor strike that happened in America and, you know, in your country last year. There's been a massive knock-on effect around the world, and all the agents have been very careful about where their actors, you know, what films they go to and stuff. So, and everyone's under the same struggle. So we've had some great reaction to the script. We've got a lot of people want to be involved in it, but it's a question of, until we can get an actor attached, it's very hard to move forward. You know.
I mean, do you need me to step up?
Well, funny enough, that's what I was coming round to. You beat me to it, to be honest. You know, you know, it would be an honor.
Whenever you're ready, man. I'm ready to go, man.
I can tell.
I was just talking about it recently. I was supposed to do the Eddie part in Rocky Horror Picture Show for a local production we were doing.
Oh, brilliant! Here. Oh, you'd be perfect for that.
Yeah, but it didn't end up panning out and happening. So I was just like,
bugger.
But,
yeah,
you know, but yeah, no way, whatever. Especially, you know, let's keep in touch. Because there's, it'd be neat. I mean, those are things. Plus, I'm getting ready to retire, so I need things to do. So I'll be ready to jet set out. And do your
well,
film.
You never know, mate. I mean, there's, you know, the great thing about you know, sort of the film business is it's very open. It's very open, actually. I've found that the conversations are really inspiring. Actually, a lot more in a lot of ways, a lot more fluid than the music industry. The music industry is a lot more precious, whereas the film industry is a lot more kind of like, well, okay, we want to do this, but we might need to change that. What do you think? And then you sort of find a new way forward. And they don't have a kind of the preciousness thing it's not the same. You know, it's very much a kind of a collection of ideas and a collective of people. And so there's always a kind of way. You know what I mean? There's always a kind of like it's just a good environment, you know. But it's just very difficult to kind of actually get the green light to make it happen, you know.
Well, I asked you that earlier about, you know, do you find is it the struggle to try to not go, oh, I got this music, or I know what would be great for right here, or I feel this right here, because of the fact of these wonderful albums where you've got such great artwork and it's all got a theme to it throughout the 3 albums. And I'm like, this is kick-ass. This is, you know, amazing. And that's why I said years ago, when I was trying to do my best to get to some different places, I'm always like, I wish I had some physical to hand out, but it doesn't always happen with labels anymore, because it's cheaper to send digital. But I'm like, tangibility with albums like this, where they're thought out and the covers have something to do with it, and it's a whole package. There's a tangibility there to help push that, and that people at radio stations could see.
Without a doubt, and that was always the intention with those record sleeves and with the whole concept is that it fed into a lot of my absolute loves. The love of the pulp classics, from that era, the 1950s. Those great. We've talked about it many times before. Those great sort of amazing tales. Weird stories and all those pulp. Sort of artists. I loved all that, and of course, it's a very well loved art form over here, all over the world, graphic art and all the rest of it. But the trouble is that record labels just don't look at it like that. The amount of kind of pushback we got because we didn't have a picture of the band on the sleeve, stuff like that is extraordinary to me. I can see the picture of Eddie from Killers behind you there. You only have to look at Iron Maiden for the greatest example of a band that have utilized graphic art to galvanize an audience, and they're probably the best example of it, really, in rock and roll. And I felt the same. I think I'm the same as you. Any fan, you want to look at the sleeve, you want to pore over it, you want to delve into the world. I certainly do. I want to be part of the universe of it all. I want to try and understand it. I want to read things into it. I want to feel part of it. I want to feel like I own a piece of it. So all that stuff really matters, I think.
Yeah, because it was, I'm fortunate to have gotten these 2 of the albums on vinyl. I'd still like to have Ghosts, but on vinyl, because it's different than the CDs. It's always has been, and historically we can still look at something this size and go, oh wow, you can pour over it, actually see it, instead of at this size, you're missing things.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And you're you're never, you can eventually see it, but not like when you're mesmerized by this and you're listening to the record and getting to know the record. And
totally.
That's it's a whole other thing.
Oh, it really is. And, there's nobody would agree more than me about that. And it is a dying art, Although I've got to say that in recent years, the last couple of years in the UK, there's been the rumblings of the major labels over here recognizing the fact that the art form of creating an album is necessary. I actually heard one of the CEOs of, I think it was Sony, talking about this, saying that they've realized that they've made an error by only concentrating on singles and small releases by their artists, because it hasn't built a body of work. There isn't enough there for an audience to get their hands around. So they're turning back to the concept of creating album campaigns and trying to re-establish that. And I don't know whether the horse has already bolted, but my belief in it is that we can do whatever we want. If the record industry decides that they're going to only release things on vinyl, or only release things on vinyl and CD along with an art campaign, if they decide to do that, they do have the power to do that. And I do think audiences would respond to that if that's the only way. If you just keep telling people the only thing they can get is digital, and that's the only thing they're going to do, then that's the only way they're going to listen to it, isn't it? Right. So I don't think it's over, but I do think it's changing, and I think it's probably it's rarer. It's rarer than it should be. But then that makes it even the more delicious when it does happen.
Yeah, and I think that's what I really love about all the stuff that you've put out, is that there's just so much to back it up, because so many people love to know about some of that stuff, more so than anybody I think would ever admit or would ever have thought. We loved vinyl when we were growing up, but nobody asked the question, why? No. It just, now we make it this way, and that's how you buy it. It's digital, it's smaller, it's going to not take up so much space in your house. You don't have to worry about this or worry about that. And the vinyl is going to, you don't have to worry about this or that. Oh, I know the vinyl sounds better, and you're like, okay, but nobody, instead of just asking, what is it? Why is it? You're like, no, I love it.
Totally. I think you've got a very good point there, and it's it's a shame, isn't it? Because I think a lot of youngsters miss out on it. Not so much my children, because they've been brought up around vinyl and CDs and music and and all the rest of it. but there is a tangibility to it, like you say. There's something so lovely about being able to own it, and I do think, actually, weirdly, I think we've had a real romantic period with digital music, but it's pretty empty once you don't, there's nothing to look at, there's nothing to own particularly, and so it's a kind of I do think that people are seeking something a little bit more than that, these days. Maybe not the very young, but I certainly think people are going, well, what else is there? What else can I grasp here? I hope so anyway.
Yeah, and you hope that they trust you.
Yeah.
When you say, no, seriously, this is great. I remember wanting to buy a vinyl for my son, and I was like, I'm going to buy you this. And he goes, well, I want to hear it first. I go, seriously? I'm like, I'm your dad. Why?
Yeah.
It's not like I just go, no, here's a brand new metal band. You got to hear it. I love it, and you're going to love it. No, I'm thinking about what you might like. And I think this is a great one for you.
Give it a go.
So I said, you know what? I'm going to buy it for myself. So I bought it. It was Joe Jackson.
Which album?
It was his Jump and Jive.
Oh, right. Okay.
And so, which I still, to this day, I don't know what A&M was thinking when they allowed him to make those 2 records in a row. What is it? Beat Crazy and that one back to back after he'd had a big hit. And then he puts those 2 out. I was just like, what you sure you're okay about that?
Prolific.
But I bought it, and then I was there, and an album that they had purchased was over, and my son and my wife had gone for a walk with the dogs, and I was there with his wife, and I said, hey, do you mind if I throw something on for you? And she goes, no, go ahead. So I put it on, and I said, what do you think about that? She goes, oh, I like it. I said, then it's yours. I said, Logan's like, I want to hear it first. I'm like, dude, I wouldn't buy it for you if I didn't think you'd like it. But, well, hey, I'll let you get rolling. It's been great talking with you. Everybody get out there, and I'm going to put this up one more time so that you guys can get an eye on it. Get out there and check this out on Toby's website. It's out there in the chat. This is the brand new album, Look Out. And it is, I know it's going to be amazing. I can't wait to hear it tonight. But get out there on the website. There's plenty to look at. I do need to get that Sticks and Stones book too. So I may be putting in an order soon.
Well, let me know what you think about all the music, and we'll have another chat at some point. And
yes, please, if we could. I mean, even if it's a time when if you're still having to take your time before you go out and do anything, if after I've listened to it and things like that, I wouldn't mind getting back together. Of course, you and I have so many of the same interests too in a lot of ways, and we need to get together over some other things that
absolutely. Why don't we do that? No, look, listen, honestly, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, sir. And thanks everyone who's watched and listened and paid some attention. And much appreciated.
Absolutely. All right, guys. Well, hey, have a great rest of the day, and thank you for being here today. Toby, thank you very much. Hang tight. I'll talk to you backstage, and we'll get this rolling. And I hope everybody's having a good one out there. And remember, when you leave your house every day, you're in everybody else's world. They're not in yours. So be cool about it, all right? Act accordingly. Don't act a twit.
Wise words.
Take it easy, guys.